This is me in the streets of Chicago.
Alright, mic check. Check.
Clearly a place I have no business being.
Right now. It just went from good to fucking terrible. What do you mean?
Yo, are you guys good?
And how I ended up here is kind of confusing. You see, a few months before, I bought this S15 Silvia, arguably one of the best drift chassis in the world. But immediately, I realized the issues this car had. The clutch would randomly go to the floor sometimes, the dash cluster didn't light up at all, and the headers were badly cracked, making it run terribly. So after getting it home, it just sat in the driveway. I lost all motivation to fix it. But luckily, one of my friends convinced me to come with him to Chicago to a drift event called Final Bout. Unknowingly, this was exactly the motivation I needed to finish this S15. Because unlike a normal drift competition, Final Bout isn't judged only by their driving, but how their cars look. So, for example, a team that might mess up their driving a bit can still catch the win if their car styling is scored high. As far as I know, there isn't another drift competition like this in the world. But from a self-proclaimed hardcore Mayhan driver like myself, I didn't understand this whole style thing. I mean, this is what my 180SX looked like in Japan. If it didn't help me drive better, I didn't really care to fix it. So when it came time for my S15 build, I clearly needed a new perspective. And by road tripping 12 hours from Canada to Chicago, that is exactly what I would eventually get, and then some. The morning of the trip, I met up with my friend Callahan, who would be taking his 240SX down with this fresh engine build. We then found the guy who dragged us into all of this, Julius.
Oh shit!
What's up?
Fucking Julius in the morning. Nice hair.
The plan was for us to take two cars and I'd ride in one of them. But immediately, we already ran into our first problem. Julius needed to fix some things on his exhaust. But with that taken care of, we packed up and got on our way. I haven't done a trip like this in forever. The drive from Canada to the border went pretty smoothly. After our cars got snipped by some dogs, we made our way for a few more hours, and I took the wheel for a portion of it.
That looks beautiful. It's your fucking neck pillow. You look like you have a scarf on. What the fuck?
I look like I have a neck.
Our first stop was to visit a couple of Callahan's friends, two members of Opposite Lock, a Final Bout drift team that happened to be on the way. After we got some quick food, we continued along our way towards Chicago. We probably had about 3 hours left at this point, and it started getting a bit dark. When we finally reached Chicago, it was pretty much midnight. Still, I got to experience my first deep dish pizza, which we realized is a lot bigger than a normal one. And in the morning, the hotel we stayed at was already full of drift cars for the event. We headed out early in the morning, and the plan was to stay in Chicago to try and catch some of the car meets and cruises before the main track event up in Wisconsin.
Yo, PMO.
I was told that for some people, going to this parking lot meet was the highlight of their trip. But as we made our way to the car meet, we heard a noise coming from the rear of Julius's 180SX.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. Be careful though.
A huge bolt went through his tire. Luckily, it didn't blow out. We made quick work of it taking it off. Julius luckily had a spare with the exact same size and offset.
Shout out Bellino.
Within 20 minutes, we were on our way.
That's like a freaking F1 fucking tire change, bro.
With that ordeal dealt with, we headed towards the car meet. We arrived at the parking lot where it was packed full of drift cars. But I still didn't understand why attending this meet was so important. To me, it just looked like any other car meet, although the cars were a lot cooler. I figured that the main track event that would happen a few days later was much more interesting. But regardless, I did a lap and I checked out some of the cars in the lot. Even cars shipped from New Zealand made an appearance on the hauler that came all the way from the shipping ports of California. But just as I was settling into the car meet, I was called over that we needed to leave immediately. I felt like I was the only one who didn't really understand what was going on because in an instant, nearly everyone started to run towards their car, leaving the area as if they were all trying to get somewhere important.
Alright, mic check, mic check. Check.
Somehow and got to the beginning of the pack. We were out of the parking lot early. We passed cars trying to get to the highway as quick as possible. What the hell could be so important here? But as we pulled onto the highway, I suddenly understood why it was so important for all of us to go to that meet. Because that wasn't the destination. It was the start for this. We merged on, and by pure chance, our timing was perfect. Suddenly, we were swallowed by a sea of drift cars.
Crazy, man, what the fuck? This is fucking crazy, dude. Holy shit.
The lights, the sounds, the smells. For a brief moment, time stood still. This wasn't a bunch of cars on a highway, it was a rolling art gallery. Something about this felt so alive, like I was suddenly part of something greater than one person could ever be. The realization that all of these people poured months of work into their cars just for this event. It was absolutely beautiful.
That's our fucking boy.
He's not afraid to hit the limiter. Ever. Oh.
What's up? What up?
Our destination was this incredible showroom for all the cars that would be part of the upcoming drift competition on the weekend. All the cars that were just on the highway with us were now parked inside this beautiful gallery space. We couldn't help but smile. It was so incredible to see how much the organizers of this event respected and understood the hours it takes to put together cars of this caliber. But as quickly as it started, 10 police cars arrived outside the building to shut everything down.
You're all getting ticketed right now, so hurry up!
No, we're not good. Towing us.
And at the worst moment ever, Julius realized he somehow lost his rear plate. We quickly swapped the front one onto the rear before anyone noticed.
Oh my god, it just went from good to fucking terrible.
What do you mean?
You know what
Why?
I mean?
Because of me?
You ever see that Megan?
Luckily, they only wanted cars to get off the street due to parking violations.
I don't know.
I just don't understand. So if we find a legal place to park, can we like come back, or is it over? You know.
Our night ended earlier than we wanted, but it's crazy to think that we were about to witness these same cars, essentially show cars, about to battle it out at a team tandem drift competition. What could go wrong? In the morning, we packed our bags and headed 3 hours north from Chicago to Wisconsin for the competition. The cruise up was mostly drama-free, and when we arrived, we already saw people unloading their cars preparing for the event. The first day was reserved for a photo shoot of all the teams driving, as well as judging the style part of the competition. Things like paint, interior, and engine bay are all scored. Even things like period correct parts are considered points to these guys. On the second day, this is when the driving portion happened. The morning was qualifying, and watching all the cars go out was a spectacle. This type of drift competition is rare these days just due to the risk of crashing. Unlike solo drift competitions like I was used to, where they judge you on your single run, or even bracket battles where they do a lead and follow to see who pulls away, team tandem competition is completely different. This style of competition was developed early in Japan mostly for spectators. It is all about judging how well you drive with your teammates. The most obvious things judges are looking for is how close you get to each other and how in sync you are during transitions. Final bouts seem to follow the same exact format. Events like this are rarely run these days just due to the sheer risk of crashing into each other and causing a pileup. Even in Japan, they kind of stopped doing these types of competitions due to the cost of crashing now that these rare JDM cars have skyrocketed in price. But there's something so special about watching a team of people who have grinded for months working together all to put on a show. In a way, you don't really even need to be into cars to appreciate how insanely cool this is. Cars are often painted the same color or have a theme like this Miata only team. During the finals, in a historic moment, the two teams battling for the win was local USA team Front Street and the guest driver C's Garage all the way from New Zealand. It was obvious with their consistently close driving all day that Front Street was locked in, and nearly everyone expected them to take the win. But during the sudden death round, almost like it was scripted in a movie, Front Street got too close together, bunched up, and spun out. C's Garage laid down a clean lap and took the win for the team tandem competition. Not only that, they managed to outright win the style portion of the competition with their fresh builds as well as the big entry comp, meaning they did a clean sweep, the first time ever in Final Bout history. It was safe to say I found the inspiration I was looking for. With the excitement of Final Bout still in my head, all I could think of was going home and finishing that S15. When I got home, I immediately pulled the S15 into the garage. Before I worked on making it look good, I tackled the annoying maintenance bits I was avoiding. I removed the cracked header, which annoyingly took an entire day to do. After draining all the fluids, I swapped on this used header I found locally online. But of course, it's never a bolt-on process. After a few modifications to some of the bracing, I was able to slip the turbo back on and install it back on the car. Next up was that annoying clutch issue. At first I thought it was this slave cylinder on the side of the transmission, but after doing a quick bleed of the master cylinder with some fresh brake fluid, the issue went away. I should have known it was an easy fix. For the gauge cluster, I thought there was an internal issue with it, and I was about to drop $700 for a used unit from Japan. But after some digging around, there was some bad wiring done, likely for the gauges. I cleaned up the wiring and the lights came right back on. Finally, nearly all the suspension components were seized, but the torch, some WD-40, and a lot of muscle pain made quick work of this issue. After all the maintenance stuff was done, I started working on the fun part, the styling. I started off by buying this front lip to even out the rest of the kit. After making sure it fit, I laid down some paint so it would match the rest of the car. For the interior, I installed my go-to, a Nardi 330 steering wheel. I cleaned up the rest the best I could. The car already had these sick Defi gauges from the previous owner, and they all worked perfectly. But most importantly, I hit up my buddy Evan selling a very specific set of wheels. These are hollow spoke Advan AVS Model 6s. Yes, you heard that right. The spokes on these rims are actually hollow. Released around the same year that the S15 was, they keep the hollow spoke charm of the older VS6 wheels that were often used on S13s in the early 90s. But the Model 6s have a more modern 2000s design, keeping them period correct to the S15, something that I now know is important. You see, going to Final Bout taught me the importance of style. Things that are timelessly cool are almost always rooted in history. If you understand the historical significance, it becomes much more than the object itself. And for Japanese cars, it means that people who get it will seek out to build a homage to a different time. In my situation, for the S15, it was early 2000s Japan, at tracks like Bihoku and Sekiya Hills. I realized this was the Final Bout ethos, to pay a tribute to a time in Japan that sadly no longer exists. The wheels people use, the fitment and the height of the cars, it all comes together in a very specific way. Every part has its own story. Sometimes it's hard to find the motivation and inspiration to keep this hobby going. Being into cars is just difficult like that sometimes. For me, I guess I just needed to step outside my comfort zone and put my ego down to find that inspiration, even if it was only for a week. Thanks for watching, and please consider subscribing.